The good news is we have perhaps the best welterweight in the world against a legitimate top 5 contender in the ring. But the bad news is, because of those styles, this could be excruciating to watch. Somebody is going to have to take the lead.
Good work, guys. Thank you.
Well, Maurice Blocker certainly came out of the blocks in a hurry. He was the first to the middle of the ring. But you're right, if both of these try to settle into a counter-puncher's role, if we employed Punchstat, I don't know that it would suffer a meltdown here this afternoon.
With 2 fighters with white trunks, we will say Maurice Blocker is the taller, and very quietly, so he can't hear us, the bolder of the 2 fighters.
Our graphic told you that Marlon Starling has the purple trim around the top of his shorts, but you're right. Maurice Blocker almost, and I say almost, a Mark Breland type physique. Although Breland a couple inches even taller than even Blocker is.
You see the Blocker?
Barely 6 feet.
You see the Blocker jab. He's a stand-up boxer, does not have much power, is a surprisingly good body puncher for a man that tall. Good.
There, I think you saw a combination that Marlon Starling will attempt to use periodically during this fight, a right to the ribs and then follow it right up with a right uppercut. It's the belief of Freddie Roach and the people in Marlon Starling's corner that the long, lean body of Maurice Blocker will not last for a full 12 rounds.
We should set up that storyline also. We said that Eddie Futch in Blocker's corner formerly trained Starling. When Eddie and Starling Marlon had a falling out, Freddie Roach, who was a former fighter of Eddie Futch's, who trained under Eddie Futch for 9 years, worked as a fighter, a featherweight under Eddie Futch for 9 years, and then when he retired was made an assistant trainer by Eddie Futch, chose not to go with Eddie when Eddie walked out of Marlon's camp and stay with him. He did the same thing when Eddie had a dispute with Virgil Hill.
And that, of course, if you recognize Freddie Roach, is where you've seen him the most here on ABC, in the corner of the light heavyweight champion, Virgil Hill.
This is the first time the 2 men have trained against each other.
Oh, good right counter punch that time by Marlon Starling. Lands flush on Blocker's head. And Maurice Blocker letting his gloves come down a little bit, Alex.
Yeah, and watch what he does when he jabs. He brings his left back very low. He just drops it completely when he jabs. And when you're in against a counterpuncher like Starling, that is a very bad tactic, a habit you'd be well advised to overcome.
Still in the first round, this championship fight scheduled for a dozen. And already the gloves perilously low on Maurice Blocker. This is the end of the first.
Well, this doesn't look very interesting. I mean, I thought you'd have me try something a little fancy.
Welcome back to Reno. Action here in the second round.
And we have to say, Dan, already in the first round here at the start of the second, the pace has been much, much quicker than we expected. Marlon Starling is fighting like a guy who knows he has to be impressive today to keep himself in line for one of those mega bucks fights.
And Marlon Starling will be the first to tell you that he's fighting for the money, that he's looking for that, as he calls it, that $1 million payday. His last fight was his biggest payday against Michael Nunn, but he had to move up to middleweight to do it. Had to move all the way up to 160, and that was not a very glamorous fight. There is Eddie Futch, one of the trainers of Maurice Blocker and one of the grand gentlemen in the world of boxing.
79 years old. He's starting to put on a little weight right now, but he used to tell people the truth that he once sparred with Joe Louis back in Detroit, and at that time it was hard to believe. He is inching slowly towards heavyweight.
Well, when you're 79, I guess you can do whatever you feel like. The pace has picked up here in the second round.
You see Marlon carrying his left pretty low. He may be trying to draw a right hand and then look to shoot a counter. See him leaning back there? Sometimes you try to give your opponent the impression there's an opening, let him bleed, take the lead, and then take advantage of the opening that his punch creates.
Oh, and there's a mouthpiece of Marlon Starling. It was an uppercut by Maurice Blocker. A left uppercut blew the mouthpiece right out of Marlon Starling's mouth.
The rules say that in a low the action, the referee will step in and replace the mouthpiece, and that's what Mills Lane is doing right now. From Maurice Blocker's point of view and from the crowd's point of view, that was not a sufficient law. Maurice Blocker had his man in a little bit of trouble, and he should have been allowed to continue.
Right, as long as the fighters are exchanging blows, the referee can't step in. He has to wait for a break in the action.
Well, I think in Mills' defense, then, they had stopped punching, but they were not clinched. I think by the definition of the WBC, though, it was a lull in the action.
Well, there was no lull in that uppercut. Oh, and a good right-hand counter by Marlon Starling.
That was respect time.
Yeah.
Maurice Blocker is not known as a puncher. He has knockouts on his record, but he has not shown real power in the past. He has shown a good chin. He does take a good punch. He has never been down, and I've never seen him hurt, Dan. We should repeat, the only quality opponent up until now was that title fight with Lloyd Huntington.
Yeah, that's a 31-1 record that you don't get overly excited about. Well, the end of the second round, and things have picked up nicely.
In case you were wondering, in case there was even a lingering doubt, he's back.
Uppercut right on the chin, and there goes Marlon Starling's mouthpiece. The bell sounds, and we're underway here in the third.
And Mills Lane is about to get angry.
He is, and Mills Lane does not like to lose control of a fight. Alex, you called that right, and Mills Lane's going to call them together.
When he finishes with this one, he can go over to the Middle East, because I don't think he's going to turn these guys.
Jab, get the jab going.
Mills Lane does not have a great sense of humor in the ring. Oh, a good left hand there by Blocker.
Marlon Starling has a reputation as the best defensive fighter in boxing. He is trying to be more aggressive here, and he's getting hit with many more punches than he's used to. Whether that's a function of a change of style or a function of his deterioration, I don't know.
You're right, Alex. It's not the Marlon Starling that a lot of fighters and fight fans have grown accustomed to seeing. And, you know, you mentioned earlier about him looking for the big payday. Could this be a conscious effort to change his style to make it more entertaining?
Well, I think it is. And I think right now he may decide that he should go back to what he used to say his old strategy was. I'm not here to please fans, I'm here to win fights.
Better be ugly and win than entertaining and lose.
But from his point of view, he'd still like to do both, and I don't think he's yet in a position, even though Blocker has gotten off even in rounds on my scorecard and scoring well here in the third. I still don't think, Marlon's being blown out by any means.
I know that Maurice Blocker has a great chin, but it's going to be tested if he keeps throwing that left from down around his waist.
There's a fighter, IBF welterweight champion Simon Brown, who would dearly love to test, he says, Marlon Starling's chin. We said at the top, Simon is a very good friend of Maurice Blocker's. They are both from Washington, D.C. Well, Simon originally from Jamaica, but now lives outside Washington. They were stablemates for a long time. And Simon picked Maurice to win this fight, but that may be more friendship than analysis. Right now, it doesn't look like that bad a pick.
Oh, and there's a good right hand backing out a little bit by Marlon Starling.
Make one other point here, Dan. This is a much faster pace than either man is used to. And when they're fighting above what they're used to, stamina, conditioning, and heart will have a lot to do with who wins the fight. Right now, Blocker seems to be breathing a little bit heavier. See more of his mouthpiece.
This is action at the end of the third. Remember, we're here for 12.
Come on along, I'll take you to the lullaby.
In the fourth, and Alex, sometimes the reason people disagree with the three scoring judges is the way you and I sat there for a minute and said, my gosh, how did we score the third round? Real close.
Oh, boy, Maurice Blocker is moving Marlon Starling with his punches, and he does not have the reputation as a big puncher. We talked about stamina at the end of the last round, Dan. One other point. Reno altitude, 4,500 feet. I mean, it's not Denver where you're going for tomorrow night's Monday Night Football game, but it still is altitude, and a lot of fighters have been fooled and tired by it.
Wild exchanges by both fighters. A much faster pace than we expected.
Low blow there by Blocker.
Yep. And there's the warning from Mills Lane. Please get it up. Oh, and there's Blocker just grabbing Starling by the back of the head and pulling him forward.
Believe it or not, Maurice Blocker, for a man that tall, actually got penalized a point in his title fight with Lloyd Huntington for low blows.
Blocker quick to say that the reason he lost that fight was he took it on very short notice.
Yeah, he should blame his good friend Simon Brown.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Simon Brown was scheduled to go over to England to face Lloyd Huntington, had a hand injury 10 days before the fight. Maurice Blocker took it on very, very short notice.
A reminder to our local ABC stations that at the end of this round, we'll be taking a station break. This round is the fourth. Dan Deerdorf and Alex Swallow with you ringside from Bally's Hotel and Casino here in Reno, Nevada. The WBC Welterweight Championship of Marlon Starling is at stake.
Maurice Blocker just warned by referee Lane not to push off with his glove. They're flicking the jab, and that's a lazy jab, and it comes back pretty low, and I'm really surprised Marlon has not been able to counter it.
It's a lazy jab, Alex, and it's also, again, coming low. It's not really, it's coming from down there by the hip.
The other thing you would expect is that so much of this fight has been fought on the inside. You would expect Marlon Starling to absolutely eat Maurice Blocker up on the inside. That has not been the case.
And when you listen to Starling's camp before the fight, that was their #1 game plan, work the body. Work that long lead frame, and another solid right counter punch by Starling. Right to the ribs.
And again, Blocker breathing heavily.
Well, if he absorbs a whole lot of body punches like that, you're darn right he's going to breathe heavily.
Now, Marlon Starling.
Schlitz Malt Liquor Professional Boxing featuring the WBC World Welterweight Championship will continue after this word from your local ABC.